and probably leading to a loss of jets. The second question that Mr. Modi's government will have to answer to the people of India, it's again not been addressed, is why is Mr. Modi and his government appropriating the success of the armed forces for their political mileage? And I think that to me is the real fundamental, I would say, aspect that I wish all your viewers pay attention to. Donald Trump can make that kind of a statement so often. I think the people of India have a right to ask, which is what both Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi and the other members of the opposition are asking. What is preventing Mr. Modi from telling or calling out Donald Trump on this right away? Because this is not about some kind of a brownie point scoring. Well, Neelu, Mr. Modi doesn't surprise me at all. And I think you and I have scrutinized his speeches a number of times to basically know his speeches are a fait accompli. They're going to be high on jingoism. They're going to be extremely high in terms of hype. Now, Priyanka has always been a brilliant communicator, and the Congress needs to field her more aggressively in multiple public domains, including Parliament. What you love about her really is the sheer, she's got a very exuberant presence. She doesn't get ruffled by provocations or attacks. And, she's able to respond. She's got what I call as she can really do a repartee brilliantly.
But if you look at the 2 days discussion, was it the taxpayers' money down the drain? With no accountability held, opposition said what it wanted to, and it raised all the questions which the people wanted to know. But the government at the end failed to answer any of those questions. Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have been discussing Operation Sindoor for last 2 days. Now today, if you look at, there was a huge lineup of guests, rather the leaders who spoke. Home Minister Amit Shah explained Operation Mahadev, which was carried out yesterday, where armed forces killed the 3 terrorists from Pakistan who perpetrated the Pahalgam attack. Amit Shah also went to the extent of bringing in Nehru in his reference, going to the extent of saying that most terrorists ran away from India during Congress's rule. Then came the fiery speech of Priyanka, which was quite a marker for its brevity, for its compactness, and it hurt where it hit actually where it hurt the most, if you look at government's perspective. And she ripped apart the government on how the attack took place. There was no security present, how Trump announced a ceasefire, what's the truth behind the fighter jets being downed, and likewise, several other leaders of the opposition tried to put the government on the mat. Well, Prime Minister Modi also came up with a fiery speech where he spoke about how the Indian armed forces attacked those terror havens which were never targeted before. Then he spoke about the Make in India drones, Make in India missiles. So he spoke all about that and made some larger points. And Rahul Gandhi, in fact, if you look at Rahul Gandhi's speech, he challenged Prime Minister Modi that I challenged Prime Minister Modi if he dares to call Trump a liar inside the Lok Sabha. So the big questions which we are asking this evening is that, was the discussion on Operation Sindoor fruitful? Was opposition able to hold the government to account? And the nation was crying for some answers. Answers like how many fighter jets were downed, why there was no security present in Baisaran on 22nd of April, why the area was opened to the tour operators, why there was calls of normalcy, that everything is normal in Kashmir, why Trump spoke about a ceasefire. These questions, it seems, have not been answered. So that's why we are saying and asking that, was the discussion on Operation Sindoor really fruitful? Joining me this evening is political analyst, political commentator, author, and columnist Sanjay Jha, and former spokesperson of the Congress. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining this evening. And my first question to you is: you must have seen the speeches by Rahul, by Priyanka, then Amit Shah, Prime Minister Modi. What do you feel? Have these 2 days really been successful in answering those questions which the nation really wanted to know?
Well, I think to begin with, Nilu, I think it's about the people of our country. Our politicians represent the voices of the people. They're elected by citizens from all over the country. And this conversation that we have seen over the last 48 hours should have ideally happened much earlier at the invitation of the government, which should have been very transparent and talked about the nitty gritties that can be put in the public domain. There are many security architecture issues that don't have to have a disclosure at all. I don't think that's what the opposition wanted either. The fundamental point was that we need to keep our people informed because this is a matter of national security. And when it comes to terrorism, Nilu, it's not the prerogative of any government. Remember that 44% of the votes are with the NDA, 42% of the votes are with the India Alliance. So it is an equal representative of the way the people of this country need to be addressed. So let's come to your question in short. The simple answer, Nilu, is this: that the opposition has been able to frame the entire conversation on Operation Sindoor following the Pahalgam massacre. There are two questions that they have raised, which I think is the crux of the entire debate. The first is that the Prime Minister of India and the Home Minister of our country went very public and they told us all that following the abrogation of Article 370, terrorism had been nearly obliterated and that militancy had been subdued, if not altogether suppressed. In fact, according to them, there was no further trouble to be expected. And then we all know that the absolutely dastardly Pahalgam massacre happened. The question that this government now has to answer, which I don't think Mr. Modi could convincingly do, is this: that end of day, why did that intelligence and security failure happen to begin with? You have Mr. Manoj Sinha making a acceptance of the responsibility after months, saying that, I take full responsibility for it. But I think this government has to explain to the people of our country, and this remains an unfinished task, as to why did you mislead the people of our country into believing that everything was hunky-dory. And the second point is vital, that the armed forces have been brilliant. They have many limitations. We heard Air Chief Marshal AP Singh say that the projects are never on time. General Chauhan talked about it in Singapore, about possibly some jets going down. You had a Navy Captain Shiv Kumar, a Navy defense attaché from Indonesia, who talked about the political leadership not taking the right decisions and probably leading to a loss of jets. The second question that Mr. Modi's government will have to answer to the people of India, it's again not been addressed, is why is Mr. Modi and his government appropriating the success of the armed forces for their political mileage? And I think that, to me, is the real fundamental, I would say, aspect that I wish all your viewers pay attention to. Yes, politicians have a role. Mr. Modi said, I've given the armed forces the freedom to do what they want. Fair enough. Now leave it at that. But to try and thereafter indulge in rhetoric and hyperbole and try and take advantage of it for electoral purposes, I think that, to me, is the most raging question that I think all politicians in this country should be forewarned that it is immoral, it is unethical, and it is inappropriate. And the people of India deserve better.
What would you really say about the questions like on the Trump ceasefire, which every opposition leader has raised, and the manner in which Priyanka Gandhi spoke about it, and also Rahul made a mention of that. Do you think that we will ever get answers on that bit as to why Donald Trump announced a ceasefire some 29 times? Will we ever get answers on that?
Well, I can tell you one thing for a fact. If the president of the United States is saying that over 27 times or 28 times, the prime minister of this country, like the press conference he hasn't held in 11 years, goes into this extraordinary Maun Vrat when it is a peer to peer conversation. The world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy. Let's have a fair conversation. The reason why the prime minister needs to address it himself and not through the foreign secretary or some kind of a foreign press release is that Donald Trump claims that he used trade as an instrument of negotiation to pressurize both India and Pakistan, who, according to him, were on the brink of a nuclear war. These are very serious allegations, by the way, Nilu. And he brokered the deal in a typical the way the Wall Street stockbrokers do their business. Now, if Donald Trump can make that kind of a statement so often, I think the people of India have a right to ask, which is what both Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi and the other members of the opposition are asking. What is preventing Mr. Modi from telling or calling out Donald Trump on this right away? Because this is not about some kind of a brownie point scoring. Because if you don't contradict this and you don't contradict this on the floor of the House, Nilu, basically is India saying that we have allowed a third party intervention to happen, which violates not just the Shimla Accord, but our own the independence of a great democratic nation. And I think that remains an unaddressed issue, which basically is convincing a lot of people that Mr. Modi's government buckles under pressure. And at the end of the day, even if you look at the statements from the SCO, from Quad, from BRICS, all of them condemned terrorism. Nobody mentioned Pakistan. And as we all know, and I've debated it with you on your show, India stood diplomatically isolated during Operation Sindoor.
Right. Rahul Gandhi quite emphasized on the point where that Prime Minister has said that every act of terror will be, retaliated with a war. And Rahul Gandhi, towards the end, emphasized these two, 3 points. He said, and I'm just going to read out, he said that please do not allow India to be reduced to a battlefield. Protect our interests. The forces are above the PM's image, PR, and politics. Please don't sacrifice them for your petty political gains. And that's how he concluded his speech. Do you think that's really going to make a difference on Prime Minister?
Well, let me tell you, this is beyond Mr. Modi. The one thing that I hope Mr. Modi has discovered after the Pahalgam massacre, the failure of the Indian government, and especially its security architecture in Jammu and Kashmir, which allowed innocent civilians to be brutally slaughtered, and the fact that in Operation Sindoor, we struggled in the initial days, and that's out in the public domain, confirmed by members from the defense services. Now, here is the fundamental point that you cannot allow this a place where Indians have lost their lives. And by the way, Neelu, I think Rahul correctly mentioned he's adopted, I think, 22 children who are orphaned because their parents died during the shelling that happened at Rajouri and Pooch. And you find BJP or the government doesn't even talk about it. I mean, it's so shameful, right? Because it doesn't suit the muscular image of Mr. Modi. And this is the point. It's a moral issue, in my opinion. We are all patriotic Indians, right? We love our country. We are angry with this government because it seems to make political capital out of everything that goes on. Mr. Modi needs to explain to the people of this country that if your Operation Sindoor is on, Neelu, as he said it publicly, and the spokesperson say it's paused, but it's on, etc., etc., how is this government having the audacity or the vulgarity or the shamelessness to pursue the Asia Cup cricket tournament with India playing Pakistan? Probably not once, but they'll end up playing a couple of times. Is a TRP and big moolah for the BCCI, where Amit Shah's son happens to be the president of the ICC and the BJP literally controls the BCCI, is that more important than the sacrifice made by our soldiers and by the innocent people who have died? I mean, it's absolutely bizarre. And that's exactly the question here. You makes speeches about mere rag rag mein sindoor daur raha hai, which I think everybody's called it out. Cut out this Bollywood dialogue bazi. It's politics that you are actually
No, but
playing.
even today, in fact, for that matter, even today, Prime Minister, when he was speaking, he said that हमने तो वहां घुसकर मारा जहां पर पहले किसी ने नहीं मारा, हमने आतंक के आकाओं को भी मार डाला. That is the kind of tone which he had adopted while he was making his speech.
Well, Neelu, Mr. Modi doesn't surprise me at all. And I think you and I have scrutinized his speeches a number of times to basically know his speeches are a fait accompli. They're going to be high on jingoism. They're going to be extremely high in terms of hype. And he will try and play to the nationalistic gallery. I hope my Pablo is not disturbing your audio. Is he disturbing your
No, no,
audio?
no. Please go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So here is my point. My point is that bottom line, the image that Rahul Gandhi talked about, that please do not use a military confrontation where so many lives are at stake of civilians, of the defense services for political exploitation. That needs to stop. And I think that's a very important point because you saw after what happened after Pulwama, right? After Pulwama, you heard the same language. And if you heard Mr. Modi's speech, Mr. Modi sounds like it's a case of deja vu. It's the same thing. Everything sounds exactly as per script. We did something that the others hadn't done. Somebody should remind Mr. Modi, and I think it's an important point I would like to make on your program, Needu. India had just got independent, right? When the thugs and those, absolute tribal characters and basically the Pakistan army attacked Srinagar, and we know what happened. And that time we were just about having a basic level of artillery or military support. Prime Minister Nehru, that first war against Pakistan ended by the end of 1948. It started in October 1947, if I'm not wrong, ended at the end of 1948. Mr. Modi, after India has become one of the biggest players, we've become an economy, and thanks to everybody who's contributed, particularly the Congress, which has governed this country for over 55 years, and Mr. Modi is willing to happily do a ceasefire within 3 days. And a country that had just become independent was willing to fight for over a year. I mean, people don't even understand. I mean, when I say people, I mean the BJP doesn't even understand the fundamentals of what it means to govern a country, which is why it's important to point out, Nilu, on your program, that even General VP Malik, he was the chief of the defense services during the Kargil war. It was under his leadership that we triumphed during the Kargil war. He was amongst the first few to put out in the public domain a tweet, and I hope it's still there, where he said, why has this ceasefire been called so suddenly? Because what tactical or strategic gains did we have? And yes, after General Chauhan publicly admits that, in the first couple of days, there were some reverses, and then the tactics were kind of brought back into track. And I'm sure that, we did excellent work in terms of attacking the major army installations in Pakistan. But were their hands tied in the first 48 hours? And these are political calls. Now, there is no harm in being open about this. Now, let me give you one more example. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, many others have talked about how many jets did we lose. According to Mr. Modi's government and the BJP and the trollers, you're being so anti-national. I mean, that's
Yes.
the biggest codswallop at the ultimate. I could use a strong word, but you know what I'm referring to. It's absolute substandard, subpar nonsense. Because the Indian army fights for every citizen in the country. It doesn't say you voted for BJP, I'll support you. Please, everyone is a stakeholder here, for God's sake. You are a stakeholder, Nilu. I am. All your viewers are. Mr. Modi's government believes that only Mr. Modi's government and the BJP party has got the responsibility when they don't even know that you have got just about the same vote shares as the opposition, and your seats are only you're in government because of support from the other two parties. That apart, even if you had 500 seats in parliament, everyone is a stakeholder in India's future. And I think, Nilu, that is the point that we need to address. Why did we buckle down under Donald Trump? And why are we even today not recognizing that General Munir lands up in the White House for lunch with Donald Trump? Pakistan becomes the vice chair, by the way, of the UN Security Council's anti-terrorism or counter-terrorism center. Pakistan becomes the chairman of the Taliban Sanctions Committee. Pakistan gets Asian ADP loan and the IMF loan. Pakistan basically has been called by the State Department of the US as being a phenomenal partner in counterterrorism. And Donald Trump is publicly saying it's a great friend, it's a great country. Where is India's diplomacy gone? And I think Mr. Jaishankar, frankly speaking, I think made a very weak defense in the Lok Sabha.
Yes, but I'm coming back to the speech of Priyanka Gandhi, which was quite a marker, and the way she put across her thoughts, everything was put in those 28 minutes of Priyanka Gandhi's speech. It really surpassed everyone's speech, as far as the opposition bloc was concerned, and I think by far it was one of the best speeches made from the opposition side. What would you really say to Priyanka Gandhi's speech, and also when you compare it with Rahul Gandhi's speech, because both the brother and the sister spoke on the same day? How would you compare the two?
Comparisons are odious. So I'm just going to tell you that every speaker has their own style. Each one has to play to their strength. Now, Priyanka has always been a brilliant communicator, and the Congress needs to field her more aggressively in multiple public domains, including Parliament. You know what you love about her really is the sheer, very, she's got a very exuberant presence. She doesn't get ruffled by provocations or attacks. And she's able to respond. She's got what I call as a she can really do a repartee brilliantly. So when Mr. Amit Shah made a dig about Mrs. Sonia Gandhi sobbing, she had a very, very relevant, uh, personally a painful, anguished moment that she went through, that was given as a response to what was, I think, a very extremely in poor taste attack by Amit Shah in Parliament. A sobbing widow story is something that I think at the end of the day, the country knows the kind of pain that the family has gone through, and these are the
And
things
I
that
think,
Priyanka.
Sanjay, BJP, I think, you would you would be able to elaborate on that. BJP again stooped to a new low, because this discussion was all about Operation Sindoor, and then they went on to the extent of discussing Nehru, Sardar Patel, then Sonia Gandhi, how she cried during the Batla House encounter. How petty was that, on the part of Amit Shah to use all these examples?
Well, Nilu, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I'm saying. That you know, Sonia Gandhi, what she went through on the night of the 21st May 1991, I don't think anybody can imagine what she must have experienced, because she was probably living that nightmare for ever since Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated. And I can share something with you actually. I remember when I met her a long time ago in 10 Janpad, I asked her this question: how did you, when you heard the news, what did you think of it? And I still remember that conversation, and it was something to the maybe the drift is like, it's something that you tend to live with. You anticipate a dark moment of that kind happening in your life, and I'm sure that even when it did, it must have been absolutely devastating. Now, coming to your question, Nilu, the truth is the BJP lives in the past. If you heard even some other speakers, I don't want to even take their names because some of them are very toxic, but they all talk about Nehru and POK and etc., etc. I'm not saying they don't have a right to say whatever they want to, but the BJP lives in the past, and their attempt in every fora is to try and make the Congress or the opposition look as if they're cornered. Now, they forget two things. Number one, we are living in the moment and we have to be concerned about the future, which is what the Congress and the opposition has done extraordinarily well during the last days, unlike the BJP. And the other thing that the BJP doesn't even have the elementary knowledge to recognize, that supposing if the Congress has been in government, which it has been for 55 odd years, and is around the country for the bulk of the time since it became independent, if a lot of the problems happen, it would, right? Because if you have been there for the longest period, you will have most of the problems. But you have to also concede that's the reason why India is also such a developed country. Or I would request everyone who's watching your program that after this program is over, take a walk and look around you and tell me how many of those bridges and ports and airports and expressways and all the trains and the airports and the multiple flyovers, expressways, factories, establishments, have they all come up in the last 5-10 years? They've been there for many decades before that. So the Congress built the country. Yes, they would. If you are there for 55 years, there would be problems. In 14 years, Mr. Modi has actually taken us back faster than we had ever come, to the place where we had to. So I really feel that BJP looks an extremely pathetic and sorry party when it harks on the past simply because it wants to malign Jawaharlal Nehru. It's shameful.
Coming to the important questions which opposition had raised, and
Mhm.
more or less all the speeches of the opposition leaders spoke about the intelligence failure. They spoke about the number of jets which were shot, and they spoke about what is the truth. They asked what's the truth behind the number of fighter jets which were shot, then why the intelligence failure, and the biggest question, I mean, the most important one is that will the heads roll? How will the accountability be set? We've had 2 days of discussion, but no resignations, no accountability. So, which means that we've had 2 days of parliament discussion on Operation Sindoor, raising all questions from A, B, A to Z, but no accountability still. I mean, how can that happen?
Well, Mr. Modi and his government believe that because they are in government for the last 11 years, they have a public mandate. They're not accountable to anybody, no one at all. Why do you think Mr. Modi never holds a press conference? He doesn't think it's important. He thinks I do a monkey bath and I will do some teleprompter speech. Good enough. Live with it. And according to him, the people of India don't mind because they're voting him back. So, if we don't ask questions, this is how the cult of autocracy only gets perpetuated. And here is the point, right? That when the Mumbai attacks happened in 2008, uh, the home minister resigned. P. Chidambaram became the home minister. People took accountability for it. And here, I mean, just as an aside, Nilu, for how long has Manipur been in the kind of state of turmoil that it has been?
True.
Has the prime minister even been there once? And has the government done anything about it? Has the home minister taken responsibility? The answer is no. Did the home minister take responsibility for Jammu and Kashmir? The answer is no. I mean, everybody knows, it's in the public domain, that Mr. Shah had visited Srinagar, right? Around a little before Pahalgam happened. And a whole security review was done. You don't even call Omar Abdullah the chief minister for that meeting. And did you see those pictures recently where Omar Abdullah was actually, the security forces were stopping him from, going and, giving his own homage to the martyrs of that event. And if that's the kind of messaging you're doing, how are you going to bring about an assimilation of trust
Absolutely.
in society? And for the BJP and the Modi government, I think Jammu and Kashmir, according to them, is just about building a road or claiming that we have made some development. You ask the people there, uh, probably lots needs to be done, but they have forgotten that more than infrastructure, you need to build bridges. Before you build those
Absolutely.
bridges that are, by the way, collapsing all over the country as we talk, uh, build bridges between people. That is more important for Mr. Modi.
Oh, you rightly put it out that in fact, not only in Jammu Kashmir, the entire country, they talk about the infrastructure development, but they don't talk about how they will heal the bruised hearts. But coming to the last question, Sanjay, now that these 2 days of Operation Sindoor discussion in Parliament, I think we'll put a lid on Operation Sindoor. Now, of course, the campaign begins for Bihar elections. Opposition will say its points, and the ruling side will mention its own points. But if you look at the 2 days discussion, was it the taxpayers' money down the drain? With no accountability held, opposition said what it wanted to, and it raised all the questions which the people wanted to know. But the government, at the end, failed to answer any of those questions.
But I just feel that when you look at the tragic sight of Himachi Narwal, you look at what happened. I was in Pahalgam, as I've told you, just two
Yeah,
days earlier or 3 days earlier. It's horrific. It's a nightmare. Uh, Governments and the BJP needs to learn its lesson here. Stop misleading the people of India. simply because you want to do your own chest thumping. Stop doing it. Number one. Mr. Modi says that next time there's a terror attack, we will do something else. Well, here is the question. Your job is to ensure that there is no further terror attack. Can you ensure that? Or are you telling people to be ready for war at all times? Because Pakistan can do a terror attack. And if they feel that India is openly talking about it, it will encourage all kinds of people to actually destabilize our country by putting us in a state of chronic war. I just feel every statement made by this government appears to be out of a Bollywood script. I'm being frank with you. And the third point, which is very, very important, and I hope that the public of India kind of questions this government more rigorously, is that we need to hold our politicians accountable. They're not gods. They are not gods. They have feet of clay, and many of them, by the way, shouldn't be in parliament, in my opinion, because they have got terrible criminal records. But the bottom line is this, that India has to ask questions of a government. Don't get fearful. uh, our lives are at stake. I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
Nilu, just as an aside, after that horrific Air India crash that happened, you're reading stories every day about planes landing and tires bursting, terrible maintenance. Are we agitated about this or not? If we don't ask questions of this government, we're going to be so scared the government is going to steamroll us all, the opposition, everyone. And therefore, in a democracy, if we live with fear, then I can tell you politicians are going to further stamp their feet on us and bludgeon us to bits. Which is why I want to end by congratulating yourself, other podcasters, and some people in mainstream media who are trying their level best to make every voice be heard. I don't think it's a waste of taxpayers' money only for one reason. This is the least we can do for
Yeah.
the people who died and the victims' families who will grieve for the rest of their lives, their friends. I can't imagine the trauma that people live with. And I just hope that India's politicians become more accountable, they become more decent. And I hope we elect more likable human beings with a good heart to parliament when the next election comes around.
Absolutely. In fact, Priyanka Gandhi reiterated that point while she read out the names of all the people
Yeah,
who died in the
yeah,
Pahalgam attack. That
yeah,
exactly was a point that you mentioned towards the end. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Sanjay. Always a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.